see it both ways, let's run back the film. Only keep it real, player, tell me how you feel. Knowledge is the key to the game of the skills. Champions of the world, highlights on the field. Ball in the air, make the world go round. Head in the game, never let it out of bounds. Stand for the truth, otherwise take a knee. Made it to the league, now we gotta take the lead. Must be two sides.
Welcome into episode 3 of the Must Be Two Sides podcast. I'm your boy Maya Hicks alongside Mike Cole Pruitt. We're back better than ever before as we keep trying to progress, here on this journey as you guys are coming with us. So Cole, it's been a little bit since we chopped it up, but I feel like since the last time we talked, there's still some topics that are lingering on. One in particular, Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James.
Yeah, man, and that's a big one, man. It's a lot going on with that. They got a lot going on. Two grown men bickering like little kids, but let's just take 1 second, bro, to appreciate this moment, man. We made it to the 3rd episode, brother. I didn't even think we was gonna make it to 1 at one point, but we made it to the 3rd one, and I'm proud of us. Let's just keep going, brother, and we could tap into that topic whenever you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we made an investment in this. So we look, once we made this investment, and not only is it not it's just the 3rd episode, but it's the 3rd episode in 3 weeks. So we're staying consistent. So that's the main thing, so got to give a little, pat on the back for that too, the way we're both able to stay consistent. So with that being said, though, obviously people want to know the 2 sides to the story, or maybe the 3 sides. And right now, it just seems like Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James they can't get enough of talking about one another right now. We kind of talked about it in our first podcast where Stephen A. Smith kind of came out and he attacked LeBron as a father, questioned his fatherhood about the way that he's kind of been helping Bronny James Jr., just navigate his way into the NBA. And, so they went back and forth. LeBron pressed Stephen A. Smith at the game. We'll bring that video up, show you guys and whatnot. Stephen A. Smith came back, talked about all that, whatnot. So what stirred the pot again was LeBron going on the Pat McAfee show. And so I want Michael to take over from the athlete's point of view. And I want you to share what LeBron was talking about on that show. And then I'll kind of dive into Stephen A. Smith's response, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, man. It's a long list. LeBron deep dove into the athlete media relationship, particularly his relationship with Stephen A. Smith, but he also went back in his history and talked about how the media has been covering him since he stepped into the league, or really before he stepped in the league, because he's been getting covered since he was in high school, man. So he went on the Pat McAfee show, like you said, and Pat McAfee, he gave him a nice little layup interview, which, I mean, you just got to be happy to get a LeBron interview, because he don't really step out and do interviews like this too much. So shout out to Pat McAfee for getting that interview and asking the questions that, LeBron may have wanted him to ask, stuck inside those guidelines. But I think LeBron made some good points.
He's like on a Taylor Swift tour run right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're watching it. Yep. We're all seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
You're seeing it as well.
He literally, it started off with, I didn't want to address it.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't want to address it. I wasn't going to address it. But since the video came out, I feel the need to address it.
Yeah, we're viral. You would be not to talk about it.
Are you kidding me? If there's one person that couldn't wait to the video to drop so you can address it, it's your ass. Like, seriously, and like another, he completely missed the whole point. The whole point. Never would I ever not allow people to talk about the sport, criticize players about what they do on the court. That is your job, to criticize or to, be in a position where, okay, if a guy's not performing, that is all part of the game. That's all part of the game. But when you take it and you get personal with it, it's my job to not only protect my damn household, but protect the players. And I think a lot of the media, including him, and I know he's gonna be happy as hell. He's gonna be smiling from ear to ear when he hears me talking about him again. Oh my God, He's gonna get home and grab some ice cream out of the fucking freezer and sit in his chair in his tighty whities on the couch.
I hope at some point you two do get a chance.
Like,
but you're right.
Dude, like relax, bro. Like relax.
He kind of just talks about how, he never really got a chance to get covered any other different way. He was pit up as the chosen one from the jump. So the media coverage was crazy, right as soon as he could even think about it. So first of all, some of LeBron points, man, he basically was saying like he looks at it as his job to protect his house and his players from first and foremost. Players weren't heard for a long time. Shut up and dribble. That was like the big thing that really got guys to start talking more and to start making their voice heard and lending their voice, man. And LeBron basically he wants media to stop making it so personal. He says media has gotten too comfortable. He says that there was a time where media wouldn't dare post any of these stories because they knew that they could end up getting hit in the face. That it could actually be some violence that could come upon you if you decide to print these certain words, because there was no social media. There was nobody that was going to check these players, and there wasn't as many repercussions as there is now. So LeBron feels like now that there are so many repercussions that guys can literally lose their career for, being combative with a media member to a certain extent, that these media members have become loose with their coverage. It's gotten away from what he believes it should be about, reporting on the game and the actual essence of the game, and what it boils down to is guys are bringing too much drama into their coverage of the league. This is LeBron. This is what he's saying. And then he extends it into the athletes that have gone into the media as well. And he believes that a lot of these guys were great athletes and gifted with talent, but they didn't really think through the game as well as he does at this point in his career. And that's why some of their takes are a little off the wall. They aren't as their basketball intellect isn't as high as his, and they judge the game off a lower bar than what LeBron would. So their coverage is a little null and void in his eyes, man. And those are just some of the things he touched on, man. And what do you think about some of those things he spewed in that interview?
I took down some notes because I was making sure I paid attention. I wanted to circle back on two particular things.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. The coverage of the NBA game, the NFL game, professional sports for that matter, has been dramatized. And it's something that we talked about in episode 1. And the average Joe at home won't realize this, but it's all about clicks. It's all about views, and it's all about ratings. That's what it boils down to, because you know what ads are going to go. You know where people are going to buy ads, where people are watching. So that's all that matters. So all these salespeople's behind the top shows like a First Take, their salespeople are just eating this up because they're calling any person who wants a commercial like, yo, how much airtime you want? Look at these ratings right now. It's no competition from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Time. We are just crushing it. We got a 90% share or whatever that case may be, like going up against all these competitors. And it's like, that's what it all boils down to. And Stephen A. Smith is very vocal about it. Like, he always talks about First Take and their ratings and being number one for the last 10 or 10 plus years or whatever the case may be. And I do think that the essence of journalism has died down from what we grew up watching back when TV was like cash cow, like everybody was making $1, because now everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a podcast. Everyone is able to share their thoughts on the game. And I think that sometimes, like, you look at today, after last night's game, the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, one of the big talking points today was the NBA errors and who's better and blah, blah, blah on First Take. And it's like, why are we talking about that? Because that gets ratings. Like, that's what people are gravitating towards. And so, like, LeBron's right. I can't sit here and defend it. Like, us in the local media, we try and stick to, how he likes to be covered. And, that's another story. But I just think ratings, man, like, ratings play a big part in everything. So LeBron is right. But it's also like, that's what's drawing eyes to your game. Like, I guarantee you, like after that little viral moment happened between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James, I guarantee you the ratings were through the roof the next day for First Take and for the next Lakers game. You know what? It all helps out because guess where those games are being advertised and played? On ESPN. Guess where Stephen A. Smith's show is? ESPN. So guess who's happy? ESPN's pockets. So it's like, and LeBron and ESPN are tied hand in hand. Like LeBron calls ESPN allegedly and gets his friends jobs or puts in a word for his friends and helps them get employed. So, it's a domino effect. So I think it all boils down to ratings though. There's something else I can say about that, but I'll let you respond to that. Cause I think ratings is what people at home don't think about.
Definitely, man. I think LeBron is playing right into their hands. He knows it as well. He went on to say Stephen A is probably in his tighty whities jumping for joy right now that I mentioned his name and we're talking about him. And Stephen A, rightfully so, is gonna go on his rants and reply because, like you said, it's gonna get the ratings.
I promise you, I won't be talking about you much when you stop playing. But as long as you're playing, I'm going to talk about you because that's my job. And I'm going to be very objective about it. You deserve praise, I'm going to give it to you. You deserve criticism, I'm going to give that too. But at least I'm going to tell the truth instead of lying like LeBron James has been lying, using his son as an excuse to say what he said to me. He has a problem with me. He knows good and damn well I wasn't shitting on his son. He has a problem. And instead of talking to me about it, he came at me when I wasn't in a position to respond. And then when he wanted to respond and elaborate, he went to Pat McAfee.
Definitely. And speaking of the replies to this interview, I feel like Brian Windhorst, who's been covering LeBron since he was a child, a teenager. LeBron threw a slight shot, called him weird for acting as if he's his best friend. But Brian Windhorst said something on First Take the next day that resonated with me. LeBron wants reporters to stick to the game, but the drama is a part of the game just as much as anything else. Now there's a line that you can cross where you start to go into people's personal lives that has nothing to do with the game. As far as I believe there was an incident earlier this year with Joel Embiid and a reporter bringing up his brother.
Yeah, that was wrong.
That was wrong. Yeah. And it crossed the line. But
absolutely,
when there is a subject that is not necessarily basketball, but it has to do with the game. It happened on the court. It happened in practice. It happened between him and a reporter while on the court. It's all a part of the game, man. It's all part of something that pushes the game forward and brings in foot traffic and brings in viewership, something that the NBA has been struggling with this season in particular.
Yeah, it definitely. And this certainly helps. I mean, it's driving up the ratings and right around playoff time where a lot of games will be on ESPN. So it all just kind of makes sense. But my thing is, did LeBron on that show, I've seen it, but I'm asking you because you're the athlete. Did he come out and say something about he was smacked like Stephen A. Smith? Like, something like he would have, where did the physicality and the altercation like that come into play where Stephen A. Smith responded the way he did? And we'll get into his response here in 1 second.
LeBron did not say anything about any type of physical violence against Stephen A. Smith.
Just gotta clear that up.
Now go ahead. Now we'll talk about Stephen A.'s response. He goes on his own podcast where we talked about before, where he feels a little more loose. He feels a little more like he can say whatever he wants to say at that time. And he goes and says, if LeBron would have put his hands on me, I would have had to swing.
That man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. Immediately.
Now, that is wild right there. First of all, he did mention how he would most likely lose this fight. Which,
he did.
Thank you, Stephen A. You have some sense and some,
you shouldn't even have even said what he said. That's wild, bro.
Right. That's why I want to ask you, like, as a journalist, as a reporter, I feel like it's almost part of your job to be the bigger person as well. Like, you shouldn't really get into these back and forths, and then you're the one introducing okay, if this, then I would have had to invoke some type of violence. Why is Stephen A feeling so loose about this and feeling kind of what LeBron said, that he can get away with saying these things without any type of repercussions?
Stephen A. Smith is on another level. Like, let's just be real. Like, you got journalists, you got like reporters for ESPN, you got anchors, and then you got Stephen A. Smith. Like, he is in a class in a league of his own. He's everywhere for ESPN. He's their cash cow. When you talk about the two most dominant sports in football and basketball. And so I just think, when you talk about sports television shows and stuff like that, like there are no more journalists, it's just takes. And I think when you got a society that's just so wrapped around and so evolved around opinions and takes, no one does it better than Stephen A. Smith and First Take. Like, they go out there and create narratives. It's like a topic on their show where Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp are discussing something turned into a viral moment. Guess where that viral moment goes? On social media. Guess who's picking that up? All the youngins and people who consume social media. And then guess who's talking about that further throughout the day and then jumping on podcasts like this? People like us. Like, you get what I'm saying? So it's like, that's just what our culture is nowadays. And that's why Stephen A. Smith and First Take can kind of get away with things like that, because who's going to check them? Like, at the end of the day, they're not coming out and calling these people out of their names. Like, they're not saying all these like personal things about them. They're just having opinions and takes on their careers, and sometimes being very dramatic about those takes and being very redundant, and also just doing the same thing over and over. But for Stephen A. Smith to come out and say, I would have punched LeBron James if he swung on me, like, bro, like, let's be real.
Let's be serious. Let's be serious.
Let's be serious. Like, if LeBron would have ever put hands on you, you're probably not getting up, like, or you're probably going to be on the ground. So there's no such thing about you putting hands on him. Like, and it should never come to that. Like you said, and as journalists, do I think we should always be the bigger person? Yes, because our jobs depend on it. But I also think that falls on the athlete as well, because sometimes we as the journalists, like, we get held to a higher standard than I think athletes do. And I think we as regular people, regular human beings, sometimes get held to a higher standard than athletes. Like, and you see it all the time when athletes get in trouble, but they can go out and go obtain the best lawyers, get out of trouble, get a slap on the wrist, whereas someone who doesn't have those resources may end up with some jail time or community service or something like that, So I think there's always a double standard, but I think everyone should hold equal value when you're talking about the professionalism and what you're covering and things like that. And also know there are repercussions when you cross those lines. And for journalists, I don't think, like you said earlier in this episode, I don't think there's a lot of fear that if you say something on Twitter or Instagram or on a podcast, you don't have any fear of retaliation. And I don't think that's okay. I think that there should be a boundary where, like, if you say something that crossed the line, you could be hitting your mouth. But the problem with that is, if the athlete hits somebody in the mouth nowadays, they're going to get sued. They're going to lose a lot of money, So it's just the climate we live in. But I think the ethics and society and the standards and boundaries should be on both sides and not just the journalists.
No, I 100% agree with that. And for the record, LeBron did not say anything about invoking any violence on Stephen A. This was
just me just asking a question, just because everyone's talking about fighting and blah 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 blah. So yeah,
definitely, man. Look, I just think, man, this is another instance of two black men in the top of their fields being pit against each other, and it's really a childish argument, and I hate to see it, man. When you talk about just some of the things that athletes are able to get away with, I feel like that's a bigger thing that is prevalent in our society when it comes to rich versus, or wealthy versus people under the poverty line.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing that's going on in this country that's always been a little lopsided there. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from with that, but that's something that is a bigger issue in our society. As far as what's going on with certain prominent black men at the top of their field being pit up against each other, Drake and Kendrick, Will Smith and Chris Rock. This is just the latest. Stephen A. Smith and LeBron. It's kind of getting old. It's something that is only seems to happen with people that look like us. something that only gets pushed super hard if it's happening in other communities. In our community, only gets pushed through the media harder with our community. And I would love to see us get away from that, and especially starting with these two, maybe they sit down and hash this conversation out.
They have to. They have to.
One of the big things for me, man, is just putting yourself in the other person's shoes, man. Just realizing that, okay, what I said could affect this person in this type of way, and I know this because I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm not just going off the first thing that comes to my mind and speaking it. I'm thinking about it first, and I'm understanding how this person may feel, and going through with it like that, man. I feel like that would be a better way for us to carry out these type of disagreements.
So basically what you're saying is you shouldn't take to Instagram and post videos and memes following stuff.
Hey man, revenge is for the Lord. Ain't that what they said? Ain't that what the book say?
For people who don't understand what we're talking about,
a very funny clip.
We're gonna post it. We're gonna show it for those who are just listening to us right now. Basically, this viral clip where Stephen A. Smith was training. He's boxing like we see a lot of people do. And in this, we don't know if it was at the end of the workout, the beginning of the workout, whatever, but it was some punches, and it was like, all right, that wouldn't do nothing to nobody, especially in a real fight.
Yeah, make it more free. Yeah, push.
LeBron posted it, and then he had a meme where he's like, womp, womp, womp. So in response to Stephen A. Smith saying he would have swung on LeBron James, but he also stated that he would have got knocked out too, which we all know is true. But you don't want to see those two, and you certainly. My thing is, I see what Stephen A. Smith always says: if you got a problem with me, approach me, blah 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 blah, do all this, like you see me at the game site. Take that stuff behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? Like, the whole world don't have to see your disagreement. Like, and if LeBron got a problem with what Stephen A. Smith said on his show or his podcast, go on his show or his podcast, and go talk about it there. I just don't agree with the social media, the bickering and back and forth. Although I understand that's just what people love to see nowadays. That's what gets a lot of views on social media. But you hate to see two grown men doing that, especially two grown men that have worked extremely hard to get to where they are and are kind of role models and, things of such for, young Black kids in America now. But so it's tough to see, but hopefully it finds a compromise and a resolution for the two of them. Hopefully we don't see this anymore. And I think
that in the future that this would be a great place for two different sides to come and sit down and discuss some of those disagreements.
Right.
Both of us have seen it from each other's side, man, and I feel like we could have them sit down and we could help them work through some of this thing. Don't you think?
Must be two sides, bro. That's what I'm saying. You could be there right for LeBron, be like, look, I got you, bro. Like, that's a dumb question. We're not gonna answer that. You can kind of be like his attorney on this show. You feel what I'm saying? The little mediator. And I could like, Stephen A., you was a little wrong for that. You shouldn't have said that, So yeah, it'd be a perfect platform. And I think it's one other thing that we have to discuss before we put a wrap on this episode. Dan Hurley, men's basketball coach at UConn, after the game, they lost, got upset in the tournament. I won't even say it was upset. It was a good game. And then when he was in the tunnel after the game, he kind of just said some stuff, hope you guys don't get F like they F'd us.
I hope they don't do that to you, man. I hope they don't do that to you, man.
Sports information director, he came out, told the reporter, you need to take this video down. If you don't take it down, we're going to ruin your life.
Charlotte Sports Live's own Joey Ellis took that video and then was confronted by UConn Director of Communications, Bobby Mullen. Mullen asked for that video that had gone viral to be removed. He then threatened Joey, saying he would, quote, ruin his life if he didn't. This was heard by multiple other reporters and staff on hand. Our management asked Mullen for a statement on the incident, and here's what he said. The lasting image of Coach Hurley leaving the court should have been his walking off the court arm in arm with the seniors, overwhelmed with emotion. Instead, a reporter who was in an area he should not have been recorded on his cell phone a private comment made to members of another coaching staff, end quote. Charlotte Sports Live and Queen City News, stand by Joey Ellis.
I want to ask you, Cole, as the athlete, as the person who's been in vulnerable situations, especially immediately following a game, do you think you guys are protected enough in those moments where there may be cameras around and things like that, where they may, catch you saying something that maybe you don't mean or you did mean, but maybe didn't want to say it, if you knew a camera was right there?
First of all, no, we're not protected enough in those moments. I go so far as to say that media is looking for a moment like that, because that's when you get some of the most viral clips. Would I be wrong in saying something like that?
Let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this. If you get a moment like that, you're at the game for the Must Be Two Sides podcast, and we're there covering the game, the athletes and the players' reactions, win or loss, and you get a moment like Dan Hurley coming off the locker room and you're able to record right there. He said all season, like, yes, maybe at your home game, you're not allowed to record right there. But for local media in tournaments like that, if you guys aren't familiar, we can't record the game because of the TV rights. We can't even have a camera inside the bowl. The only place you can record in the tunnels following a game, when a team is going on the court, like all the stuff you love to see on social medias with the managers and the boombox, like that's the stuff that we can record. So my thing is, if you got recorded that moment, would you post it for our podcast?
Yeah, man. I don't think that that specific media member did anything wrong in this specific instance. Now, when you ask me a general question about are we protected or not, that's when I go into no, we're not. This is something that is exploited because it's something that gets the clicks and it goes viral. But I believe in this certain instance, that Dan Hurley was wrong to try to go at this media member and get this thing taken down, especially with threats of ruining this person's career or this person's life.
It's obviously it's all my fault that Bobby got pulled into it. I set the whole thing in motion, and I feel horrible. Obviously, he could have handled, dealing with the media person with the phone, that took the video. He could obviously just, let it go. He should have been better trained for a situation like this. We've been in them all year. So, but, Bobby's a soldier. I think he's we all fight like that for each other in our program, and sometimes, we go a little too far.
He brings a certain level of passion to the game, man, and he shows this. He wears it on his sleeve. So, and obviously it's been something that's been successful. 2 back-to-back national championships. It speaks for itself. I've even heard him being quoted saying that there should be more coaches like him. That the art of coaching is falling off a little bit. And some may agree with that, some may not, but you can't disagree with the results. But as far as Dan Hurley and coaches go, I believe that they should be an example for their players as to how to act when it comes to dealing with these high emotional moments. And I believe he just missed the mark on this past one, and he has before. He has a lot of growing to do, and so do we all. But in those moments in general, are we protected enough? I do not believe so.
I just think that, man, like when you say you guys aren't protected, my first thought is how. You know what I'm saying? Because I just think about the limitations that we have in local media and the things that we can't record, the things that we can't show, the video that we can't shoot. And it's just kind of like, how do we, outside of paparazzi, how does media invade or not protect you guys? I guess, where do you feel that disconnect?
Honestly, I just believe that the way that it's set up, it's kind of like a early bird gets the worm type of thing. So when you're in the locker room and you feeling a certain type of way, maybe it's dejected after a bad game or a little too excited after a good game. These guys are in the locker room and they're running at you like that. and when one person sees another running, at one person, they're coming as well. So it's a huge
They do
group.
do that. They do.
They
That does
surround
happen.
you with cameras and microphones in your face, and it's just the way that it's set up that doesn't really provide that protection for me.
But don't they always have a team personnel right there? So if there's a question that you don't want to answer, is someone to be like, next question?
I understand that, but that team personnel, they don't really know what's going on in your mental. They don't really know what type of emotions that you're going through at that very moment. So they may think it's a fair question, and it may actually be a fair question, but your state of mind doesn't allow you to answer this question in a way that is going to shed some type of positive light on yourself at all times. And that's just part of the human experience.
Right. Do you think that maybe you guys should decline an interview that day and say, look, I'm not right now. Let me get with y'all on Monday or Tuesday?
I 100% think that we should do that, and that's a right that we reserve. But sometimes when you're told that you're obligated to do media, that thought about, you know what, I can't do this right now, it kind of goes to the back of your head, because sometimes when guys do that, they get looked down upon or as running from the questions, or too soft to answer these questions about what went wrong in the game. So it's a catch-22. It's a catch-22.
It is, because I will say that narratives get created, stories get made where it says, we tried to talk to him after the game, he declined. He said he didn't want to talk to us. Clearly, he's frustrated about everything, and he wasn't man enough, or she wasn't woman enough to speak to us following a tough game, or a tough result. Whereas another person, well, they will step in front of the camera, and they may not have much to say. Where they're just like, yes, it's tough. Like I should have made that. I shouldn't have made that mistake. Should have held on to the ball. And then the story gets made. Well, they confronted media after the game. They were dejected. You could tell they felt for that game, that moment, and they wish they could have it back. So I also think like how an athlete handles those moments will also dictate how the story is formatted. You know what I'm saying? And I think if an athlete steps in front of the camera, gets asked a tough question, and he doesn't answer it the best way he normally could, and just says, look, guys, like, I ain't got it right now. It was a tough play. I should have made it. But let me get with y'all on Tuesday, Wednesday. Let me digest this. Let me go watch the tape. Let me see what happened. And then I'll be able to have a more in-depth conversation with you when I see you in the locker room on Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? And I think reporters will respect that, and that would get formatted in the article. Like, look, he clearly felt the pressure of the moment, whatever. It happened the way it happened. And, he wasn't ready after the game, but, he was kind enough to speak to the media, let us know, and be human, like you say. And we'll talk about it at a later date.
Yeah, man. And I think that's important for athletes to know. It's an important tidbit, something that we've talked about in the past. Just when you when you interact with the media a certain way, that usually leads to favorable stories being told. You interact in a positive way, you get to know them as well as they're trying to get to know you. It usually leads to, okay, I'm not going to misquote this person. I'm going to make this person look as good as they possibly can and shed some light on their story. So I believe that's something important.
You're going to make the journalist think twice too about publishing a negative story and tarnishing their relationship with said other. And, think all that stuff plays a factor into how you get covered. And I think a lot of people that hate the media typically have done things or said things in the media that they shouldn't have said. And they aren't big enough to go look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. Like, yeah, they took that quote and it ran off and it went viral, but I shouldn't have put myself in that position, because there are thousands of players in the NFL that I'm sure that don't get any media attention, that are carrying themselves the right way. And when they do get that opportunity to speak to media, they capitalize, you know what I'm saying? And they have no complaints about the way they're being covered because it's fair and it's honest. You know what I'm saying? I think there's only a few sample size people that get publicly criticized unfairly sometimes. And I think there are a lot of players that get criticized the way they should. And I also think, circling back to kind of my question and this topic, I think professional athletes have a ton of protection, and so do college athletes. I do think that social media, though, sometimes like you see the people waiting outside the fences to talk to y'all, or paparazzi's waiting on you at this moment to catch you on this, or a podcast is being messy. But I feel like when you guys are in those buildings after games, I do think that these teams do a pretty good job, of making sure that you guys are okay. And I think that it's on the athletes a little bit more to be like, look, I ain't right now, so I ain't talking to you. And it ain't no shade. And I've seen AJ Brown do that after a game, like where I think he caught like 2 passes in a playoff game, and he was like, look, he's like, I don't know what y'all waiting on. He's like, I ain't got nothing to say. He's like, go talk to the other guys. He's like, I ain't mad. It ain't nothing y'all did personally, but I ain't got nothing to say. We won. I'm happy. I'm gonna catch y'all later.
Hey, well, some of that might be because of them self-help books he's reading on the sideline right before he walked in. He probably read a good quote right before he walked in, man.
His teammate Devontae Smith said on the podcast that he actually did that all season long, and he don't know why it took so long for it to be picked up and go viral. But he said he has done that all season long. But
I commend
think
him.
that more
I
athletes
commend him
do.
for that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't handle it that way. Not at all. But
Man, me
yeah.
neither. But
Yeah, you know what
you
I'm
gotta do
saying?
whatever you gotta do, man. And I just think it's important, man, to realize that the game does not stop when you walk off the field. Like, it's all a game. Like, especially dealing with this business, the professional athlete business. You got to play the game a little bit. You gotta really maneuver in the right way to be able to heighten your brand. And every move you make is a part of that. It doesn't just end once you get off the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that it's the same way for journalists and media members. I like obviously not as big of public figures like athletes are, but I think, we get held to a higher standard as well. And we, like you said, we kind of have to be the bigger person, especially when you think about we got bosses that we report to and will have to ask us, like, why are you doing this? It's bigger than you. Like, it's not just you. And it's something that I've experienced before, where bosses, pull me in a room. It's like, look, this is our mission. This is our goal. I understand what you're chasing, but think about the team aspect. And, so I think that's a bigger story that doesn't get talked about a lot when you're talking about media versus athletes and their coverage. So I'm sure that's something we could dive into in later episodes, but I think it's a good place to put a bow on this episode. Just basically summing up that Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James kind of need to cut it out, scrap their beef. And that maybe, athletes, coaches, and media members kind of need to be more mindful and putting themselves in each other's shoes, to further help that relationship and that divide that's already there between media and athletes.
Yeah, man, it's been a rift going on too long, and putting yourself in the other person's shoes could really do a huge benefit to the relationship and how it's just deteriorized more and more as we've gone forward. I think that's probably the only way to bring it back to a more peaceful spot where no one's swinging on anyone.
You feel me? Exactly. All right, y'all. We appreciate y'all tuning in for episode 3 of the Must Be Two Sides podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. Let us know what we're doing. And tell a friend, tell them to tell a friend, share, get the word out there. Obviously, just the beginning, but I think we're going to start diving into getting some guests on here to kind of talk about their experiences, whether it's a player, whether it's a former NFL player, media member, whatever. I know something I want to talk about is the NIL and the way these young bulls are getting paid nowadays. And I know you'll have a lot to say about that, Michael, in further episodes. So that's just a little tease, a little snippet of what we may be diving into next. But of course, you got to subscribe to us so you can figure out what that is whenever we do it.
Definitely, man. I just want to extend an open invitation to anybody that has any type of animosity, media, athlete, it doesn't matter. Come hash it out, because we know it's two sides, but we getting down to the truth on this show.
We appreciate y'all. See y'all next time.
Yeah.